Xtandi can cause harm to high blood pressure. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
Broadcasting from high atop the Hancock, WCHI HD1 Chicago. We are Rock 95.5, Chicago's rock station.
Opening vault.
Pat Capone, Chicago's ambassador to rock. The Vinyl Vault is cranking now on Rock 95.5.
Vault open.
I'm Pat Capone, and welcome, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Vinyl Vault. And tonight is a very special vault because I really pooled my resources. I've been looking for years to grab as many cool pieces of vinyl from local bands here in Chicago as I could. But most local bands were never able to put out vinyl. And if they did, it was in small, limited qualities. Sometimes it tended to be poor pressings as well. Very hard to get. But I've called in my buddy Ron. He's brought some. We're going to talk to him on the second half of the vault. And I've got a whole slew of cool, local Chicago rock band vinyl for us tonight. We're going to kick it off with a band known as the Boys from Illinois. My buddy Dan and Mike, they're great guys. They're still performing around here in Chicagoland. But back in 1978, if you wanted a band that was going to sell liquor and bring the house down, you brought in the Boys from Illinois. And they were known all over the place. Hell, they were on American Bandstand at one time. Cool, old school, down and dirty rock and roll is what it was all about. Some people classified them as a biker band. Okay, sure, I guess there was a motorcycle on the cover. I don't know what that is. Some people called them metal. Maybe a little bit of that. It just sounds like rock and roll to me. But in 1978, this is one of the best local bands in Chicago. It's the Boys with Too Wild to Tame. And we're going local on Capone's Vinyl Vault. Brother Dan, I'm playing the Boys on Rock 95.5 again. I love Dan. Dirty Dan Buck. What a cool voice. Dan's become a good friend. He comes out whenever I ask him to play my Christmas shows. I've seen his band many times. One of the Boys still plays all over Chicagoland. If you get a chance, go and see him. Buddy, who's the guitar player, is absolutely phenomenal. He works at Dr. Wood's right down the street from where this next band was formed. About 45 miles northwest of the city of Chicago is a small little town on the northwest train tracks called Cary. Not a lot's going on in Cary, and back in the 70s, there was a small drugstore in a strip mall called Brick Drugs. My old man sold the liquor to Brick Drugs, as he sold to many people around Chicagoland. Legally. So my old man, who was a networking genius, told the owner that, his son wanted guitar lessons. The owner's like, oh, you know what? My son plays guitar. Let's put them together. And that's how I got my very first guitar instructor, Kirk Brick. The irony being, Kirk Brick never taught me any rock and roll, yet he was the producer and lead guitarist for a band called Sorcery. Now, I knew that. To me, I thought he looked like Bob Seger. And he only taught me classical music. That was at my request, until one day he brought in his white Gibson Flying V. He said, it seems crazy to me I'm not teaching you rock and roll. I wanted to show you this guitar as motivation. Kirk was the first guy to make sure that I got an electric guitar, one of those Ibanez ripoffs of a Les Paul. He got me my first acoustic electric guitar, and he got me started playing rock and roll. He is the guy that made me the rock and roll guitar player I am today, and this was his band. Very rare vinyl from Sorcery back in 1980. A gift from my friends at Siren Records in McHenry, because they knew he was my teacher. Yeah, man. This is called Borderline. Sorcery on Capone's Vinyl Vault. Kirk, come on, brother. I'm playing your record on my radio show. Naked Ray Gun, their debut album, a very rare mint condition original pressing of Basement Screams. Without Naked Ray Gun, there never would have been a rock and roll Dave Grohl. Without Dave Grohl, would we have had the Nirvana we had? Maybe not. We certainly wouldn't have had the Foo Fighters. And the list goes on. That's what you're going to see, is how these local Chicago bands have influenced music far beyond what we think of as our local music scene. And it's very rare that they were able to print vinyl. That was hard to do back in the day. It wasn't like you could jump online and search for somebody who will press limited runs of vinyl. You had to know somebody. You had to have resources. This band, man, they did a lot of gigs around Chicagoland, and the truth is, they still do. In fact, one of the guitar players, Gary, played in my bootlegger band for a long time. We did charity shows all over Illinois and Wisconsin for about 9 years, man. Gary's a good guy. He's a true brother and a hell of a musician, and you're going to hear that throughout this whole album. Paradox was known as the band with the big hair and the spandex. I swear to God, the boys all still have a box with their old red, black, and silver spandex in it, and they're just dying to put it on. Now, this was a very limited piece of vinyl. Nobody has it. The price, one time it sold for $2,000 on eBay. Luckily, I think a company, I believe out of Czechoslovakia, maybe, Poland, somewhere, decided to re-release it on 180-gram vinyl, so you can still get and all of the spandex. Could you hear the spandex on there? I make fun of John and Gary. I tell them, I go, you guys still have all the spandex? And Gary's like, yes, I do. I go, I know you do. And he's dying to wear them, and they will. They'll put the spandex back on and the Aquanet and tease their hair up with pointy guitars. I believe Paradox will be doing another reunion show in September at the Brower House. John flies in from Arizona. Gary's still local, and they sound fantastic. I highly recommend you go check them out. Very cool to pick up that pressing. That is a new pressing of an album that is super rare. If you had the original pressing from Paradox, that sold for $2,000 on eBay a couple of years ago. And then a Eastern European country re-released it on 180-gram vinyl. You can pick it up for $30. Sounds fantastic, just like back in the day. Now here is a newer band. And you know, every town is known for a certain sound, right? Austin has a sound. Nashville has a sound. Los Angeles has a sound. The Seattle sound. But here in Chicago, we've got a lot of sounds that you might not even know that we're known for. Certainly, we have a huge jazz scene, a huge blues scene. Everybody knows Styx and everybody, right? The Smashing Pumpkins. But there's also a doom metal scene here in Chicago, and this band is a great representation of it. This is an album they put out only a couple of years ago. It sounds fantastic. The tune is called Heaven on Earth. This is Spillage. Local Chicago doom metal, Electric Exorcist. I know they're finishing up or have completed another album. This whole album sounds great. It's a really cool band. Doom metal, black metal, thrash metal. All we do is give bands labels. It's all rock and roll to me, boys. And I think it sounds damn good. We're playing local grown Chicago rock and roll, and I got my buddy Ron stepping in to help me out with some of his collection when Capone's Vinyl Vault continues next.
Now, let's see what your dog has to say.
As a dog,
at 1-800-Flowers.com/iHeart.
At ccisd.us.
Seriously, support those fine brands. They make the rock happen. Rock 95.5. Your ears are enjoying the vibration of sound that is the Vinyl Vault on Rock 95.5.
Right on, and welcome back to side 2 of Capone's Vinyl Vault, and we've dug into the archives, and we're playing some vinyl from local bands tonight. And if you were a local band and you had a piece of vinyl, that was rare. It was like a status symbol. You've got vinyl. Everybody had cassettes at the time. So this vinyl is hard to find. It was produced in very limited quantity, and most people hang on to it. There's never a lot of it printed, which is why I've asked one of my friends to stop in with his collection, my buddy Rockin Ron. How you doing, amigo?
I'm doing fine, Patrick. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming out and bringing your vinyl collection, because you've got a lot of original vinyl.
My pleasure. pleasure. And like you said, it was a big deal back in the day when somebody come traipsing down to the studio with some vinyl.
Right. Now, Ron used to do radio in Chicago. When was that? Back on...
From 81 to 87, I worked at a small college station just outside of Chicago.
With Rockin Ron.
Basically, we did from the beginning, because we were just a small wattage station.
And that's fun. You can play what you want to play. You kind of curate your own playlist, which is why you had all this local vinyl, right?
Absolutely.
Which I really appreciate you bringing in. And the first one we're going to play was on my request list. I had a feeling you might have this. I reached out to you. Vengeance was a big band out here in Barrington in the early 80s. It was a big deal. They used to rehearse out here. And so I used to play guitar. Everybody knew I was like this hot guitar player at the high school. And so this one kid wanted me to come out and be in a band with him. Now, he had a lot of money, like a lot of kids do in Barrington. I won't mention any names, but his first name was Rob, and his dad owned a private heliport. That's right. His old man would fly to the house in a helicopter. So you have this huge heliport, which only has one little helicopter in it. So Vengeance had talked to my buddy Rob, and they had all their gear stored in the heliport, set up so you could play. So Rob invited me over to the house, took me out to the heliport. I'm like, where am I? This is crazy. He goes, it's all right. You could plug into those. And there was a wall of Marshalls, right, in this heliport. So I took my old 1965 Fender Mustang and I plugged it straight into the Vengeance's Marshall, and me and Rob made crazy noise for 3 hours until one of the band members showed up and started screaming, get the hell off our gear, man. And so Vengeance was this band. They were really popular, and I think they even got on the Halloween 3 soundtrack was their claim to fame. So they actually had like a movie placement.
Besides this single.
And this single did get a little bit. Now, this is a 45 that they put out, and they have got 2 great titles. What are the titles, you remember?
Rock with Vengeance and Rock something
Rock
else.
Renegade. Yeah, Rock with Vengeance and Rock Renegade. Hey,
was that it?
We're not trying too hard, are we? All right, so dig it. We're going old school. Some seriously old school local Chicago band vinyl on 45. It's Vengeance. Rock Renegade on Rock 95.5. And of course, that's the B side. The A side is, what is it? You should fight for rockers. It's like every song they did had the name Rock in it. Vengeance, man. They were a very good band. It's tonight, Vengeance at the Thirsty Whale with Zoetrope.
Well, next band is E-Trope.
That is exactly what we got here. And the album is called Combat. Now, this is an album. This isn't a 45. This is a whole album.
It's an album, all right. And late, great Barry Stern, who played drums and sang in E-Trope, and this song's The Company Man. Can't get enough songs with cowbell in them, so we need more cowbell.
And this is thoroughly cowbelled, as most of these 80s rock bands were. There was an honest-to-God Chicago style to 80s. Chicago loved it. Chicago still, I mean, right? You put on your Reebok high tops, you jump in your old Trans Am, you turn on the radio, and there's Zoetrope. Zoetrope. Did I say that right? Is it Zoetrope?
Well, they don't pronounce the Z and the O, Pat. They call it E-Trope.
E-Trope.
Just E-Trope.
Z-Trope.
E-Trope.
Z-Trope.
Everyone would say Zoetrope.
It's Zoetrope now, right? It is now. Off their album, A Life of Crime. Company Man.
Yow! All you company men out there.
We need more of that 80s metal scream that is all over these records. There's a lot of cheese on this, let's be honest. This is some, right? I can smell the Aquanet on this vinyl.
Oh, come on.
Come on,
they were a little more raw than that.
This is back when men used to wear, like zebra spandex pants on purpose. You know what I mean? And chicks dug that for some reason. I promise you, Ron, I will never wear zebra spandex pants.
Thank you.
Yeah, nobody needs to. That's shocking. And once again, I got my buddy Rockin Ron in with me, who's brought in his really cool local collection of vinyl. Ron used to do rock radio here in Chicago back in the day and had a lot of these local bands on his show. All right, let's tell him about these guys right here.
Diamond Rex is definitely a Thirsty Whale band.
For sure.
I know we have many stories, and I'm sure you can.
Thirsty Whale.
Oh, absolutely.
Man.
This is off of a compilation from back in the day. And,
Yeah.
we're going to spin some Diamond Rex. How about
it's
that?
heavily loaded with cheese. Yeah. Diamond Rex on Capone's Vinyl Vault as we salute local Chicago rock and roll. Tonight at the Thirsty Whale, Diamond Rex, Vengeant, Zoetrope. Are those guys going to hate me now because I keep saying Zoetrope?
Well, yeah, there is a local thing with them. They liked E-Trope, and some bands would make fun of them. They would even make fun of themselves and call themselves E-Throw Up.
Fun stuff, man, and it's bringing back old memories. Like, this is like a lineup, like this whole side of the vault. I feel like I'm out in the parking lot of the Thirsty Whale. I've just puked on the side of my buddy's old Camaro, and now I got to walk in and see Lori, the skinny little bartender, and order some really expensive warm beer. That place was hot, sweaty, and smelled like armpits and Aquanet.
It was still our mini version of L.A.
It was one of the greatest places on earth. The Thirsty Whale. If you had long hair, you could get a girl out of the Thirsty Whale. You didn't even need an instrument. You just had to look like you had an instrument.
We're going to hear another track with Barry Stern on it here.
This is another. We played a Barry track. Barry was in
E-Trope.
Z-Trope. And this is Trouble. These guys have a huge following. People talk to me about this band all the time. And this song got a video, I think, on MTV, right?
Sure did. And produced by Rick Rubin.
Yeah, so it's a good sounding piece of vinyl and produced by Rick Rubin. You know the quality is all there. So this is Trouble.
180 gram.
Nice quality on Capone's Vinyl Vault.